I think it is safe to say Femi Adebayo is the king of the Yoruba part of Nollywood, especially making epic films, because I just think he has done his due diligence over the years by producing one of the biggest epic films. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Here we do movie reviews and give you all the gist going on in the industry, the music industry, the film industry, and the skit industry at large. Today we'll be reviewing the movie Ageshinkole Part 2, The King of Thieves. Ageshinkole Part 2 is a sequel to the movie Ageshinkole that was released in the cinema some years back, and this one was released in local cinemas on the 24th of December 2025. And without further ado, let's get right into the synopsis. Ageshinkole is a sequel story of a town called Ajeyemi, whose peace, order, and justice is governed by the fierce human-turned deity, who has a sustained tolerance for injustice. He has once restored justice to the town, and it became a law to any king or official of the town to swear an oath to him to abide by justice and orderliness. But what happens when a new king usurps the throne? He humanly and unjustly silenced Ageshinkole so he could prevail in his injustice and corruption over the town of Ajeyemi. But what did they say about the truth? If a lie goes 20 years, one day truth shall meet up. That's what happened when Ageshinkole became unstoppable after so much effort to stop him. One of the major things that I love about this film, and it has been a predominant thing in Femi Adebayo's production, is the attention to the details and the costume. Trust me, Lola Awe has proven herself worthy in the time past with the film of Seven Doors, Jagu Jagu Part 2, and most of the films that has to do with epic or something of the flashback or something of the 80s or 90s. Attention to the details and the part of the costume, in the part of the set design, in the part of props, and everything pertaining to telling the story of the fact that they were in the 80s. I think the movie was dated to be 1982. I love the details, and even in the lace, even in the telephone, even in the police costume, even in the Benz, the vintage cars, they were awesome. It brightens the mood of the film, and it makes it easy for the viewers to get to the emotion that the writer or the producer wanted us to see. And it's a combination thing. It's a combo thing that hits the success of the emotions trying to be stirred, and I think I love to see it. One thing that I like about this film is the fact that there was no slack. As much as it was a 2-hour movie, I love the fact that the producer, the director, the brain behind this movie made sure that it was captivating from the beginning to the end. As much as there were not so much going on in the film per se, but it will carry you from the beginning and you will not be left out, because every of the scene was intentional. There was no unnecessary scene. Every of the scene precedes another. It was very intentional. Each scene precedes another. There was no disjointed scene, so to say, because there's some movies where you watch and there will be a lot of unnecessary scene and a lot of necessary comic relief, but every of the scenes has a reason why it was there, and I think I love it. As much as it was a 2 hours journey, there was no place where I felt like this scene was very unnecessary. For every movie, regardless of the intensity, there should be a better climax, and that was what happened to this movie. It has a greater climax. As much as it was intense from the beginning to the end, there was no point or there was no part where it requires us that the story was building, because it's a sequel and there's an expectation from the part 1. Everybody knows, and I love the fact that from the beginning, even for someone who has not watched the part 2, someone who have not watched the part 1 at all, rather, would be able to relate to the part 2, because at the beginning, the whole synopsis of how the part 1 went, the history of Ageshinkole, how he restored the peace and justice from the part 1 was related in part 2 on a brief level that for anybody that didn't see the part 1 would definitely get it and be able to enjoy the part 2. And I think it's extremely brilliant. I love it. It is very, very okay that whenever a sequel is about to be made, it should be better than the part 1. And I would tell you for free that Ageshinkole Part 2 has a better storytelling, has a better execution than the part 1. One would say the part 1 was a basic story, so to say, or one would say it was just a story that I've been told before. It is a brilliant thing to see that a story that was told in the antiquity, that was told in the time of immemorial, is being brought to the time of the 80s and the 90s. I think it's a brilliant storytelling. The correlation of the time when there were no usage of cars, there were no usage of the modern amenities that's been used in the part 2, how the correlation, how the transition was made without us feeling a bit of force with it. I think it is brilliant. The storytelling is brilliant. It was brilliantly told. Honestly, I was expecting more in the aspect of cinematography and the lighting. It was not a completely bad one, but I could see some errors, especially shaky footages from the beginning, and some parts where they were supposed to be cinematic in the exploration of conveying the story. I think it was just a mid cinematography and lighting. I think the only part where there was exploit in lighting was one of the night scenes where there was a blind lighting expertise there, and I think it was great, but I was expecting more. Maybe the major selling point of the film is not supposed to be the cinematic expression, or rather the lighting expression, but I expected more for a film that is a cinema standard. It should cut across everything pertaining to cinematography and lighting, not just the story. As much as the story is good, the story is great, but compelling story should also involve cinematic shots, because to convey the right emotion, cinematic shots should be part of the consideration. One thing that I did not really find funny, in all honesty, because I've seen Femi Adebayo films, I've seen Nigerian films do better, is the aspect of visual effects. Akeem Effect has done better in the aspect of visual effects in some films, but it is very, very underwhelming to see the lapses of most of the visual effects. They are very laughable, especially the part where the trio had to fall on the people going to instill peace at the mine. That place was very, very funny. Most of the visual effects were evidently laughable, honestly, and it really degraded the film. As much as this film has a good storytelling, it has a good climax, it has a good intensity, I think the visual effects made it degrading, because it was very laughable, even to someone that is blind. Honestly, in this film, Ageshinkole was summoned. Ageshinkole's ears were blocked. Ageshinkole's face were spiritually blinded, so it returns deaf and blind eyes to the injustice going on in the town. But and at a point, it was unleashed. It was released by one of the chiefs, one of the female chiefs, and it brings me to the reason why. The reason why Ageshinkole was unleashed or was released was not so important for the essence of this film. I think it would have been better if it was the princess that unleashed Ageshinkole. Probably she was told that there's someone that could be the end of the injustice in the town, and probably she should be the one to unleash, or probably the husband or the man of the princess that was treated unjustly. And I think these are options for it to have made it a great film. But for the female chiefs, who was not just given chieftaincy title to her daughter, I think it was not far-fetched for me, and I think it was quite underwhelming. Up until now, I'm still asking myself, or for anybody that has seen the film, why was the princess abducted, and who abducted the princess? What genuine reason was the princess abducted? These are things that should have contributed to the excellence of this film. But the reason why the princess was abducted or was kidnapped was not made known, or probably a reason why she was adopted, or filling us in as an audience as to if she was going to be adopted. I think it would be brilliant enough to gag us up enough, because it was just like that she was going to be abducted or kidnapped was not meant to the audience. It was just a sudden thing for us, and I think it would have been better if it was shown to the audience that she was going to probably elope with her boyfriend, or with a man, so to say, or just make us be in the know. Even without making us be in the know, the reason should have been made evident, but it was not made evident at all in this film. And it brings us to the fact that why? Because and it raised the standard of this film honestly from 100 to 60, because that's like the climax of the film. As much as the climax was great, it raised a good gagging from and good response from the audience. But I think for a logical person, the reason why the princess was abducted or why she ran away, and we don't even know if she ran away with a boyfriend or if she was kidnapped. That part was not made known. I honestly don't understand why. Probably they had to do some cut and join. Probably it was getting too long. But I think the essence of the film should still boils around that part. If they were going to cut out anything, it shouldn't be that essence. It should have been some of the scenes if it was the time lapse that was the problem. But all the same, I think it really degraded the film. Honestly, maybe because we've seen better of Femi Adebayo, or maybe it is just Femi Adebayo, I quite feel like this film is underwhelming in performance. The story was good, it was innovative, bringing, honestly, like I've said earlier, bringing from the antiquity to recent times to the 80s, the conformity is awesome, it's brilliant to see. But in execution, especially the blocking the loopholes and also the special effect, I think it's quite underwhelming, and it's a thing that the producer or the brain behind this film should have taken their time to just fix, and it would have been an A film. But nevertheless, I think the film is a good watch, and for anybody who enjoys epic, or for anybody who enjoys good work, excellent was so to say, or for a lover of Femi Adebayo, I think they will enjoy this film. Or for someone who just want to enjoy Yoruba film or Nigerian films at large, I think they're just going to enjoy this film. But critically, I think it's quite underwhelming, in all honesty. That's that about Ageshinkole Part 2. But for rating's sake, I think I'll rate this film 6/10, and that is a good one. For the storytelling, for the attention to details, and the set design, and in the costume department, I think they did great. The storytelling and the costume department did great, but the visual effects didn't do well. But the storytelling too has its own flaws. But I think I love the intensity. It has a great flaw. The storytelling has a great flaw, but there's one thing I love about the intensity that makes it 6/10. And that was it. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like, share, click on the subscribe button if you haven't, so you get updated about our uploads. There's so much to do this year. There's so much film to bring so much content to bring to you. Thank you very much. See you in my next video.